Busy, busy?
Yeah. Lynn that works in the back doing our accounting work,
Yes.
her mom passed away this morning.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I'm alone today. Nobody else
Yes.
is here. And it's been a little,
Hectic. All right. Well, we'll stick to it and maybe finish up early because I know you got drivers that need to get loads for Monday, get back home safely, all that good stuff, right?
yes.
So, with that in mind, we'll go right into first topic I sent you was rethinking driver pay. And the article caught my eye because of a couple motor carriers that do pay on mileage. And the big thing they call it a hybrid model of mileage now, where um, they're combining a mileage pay along with an hourly wage or flat additional compensation for duties when the wheels aren't turning. So, and I'll let you elaborate on what you do at Happy, but what they go on to say here is they call it activity pay, which is examples would be loading, unloading, inclement weather delays, could be mechanical breakdowns. But the big, as everybody knows, and especially in the van freight world, is the detention times, where a lot of motor carriers say, well, we don't start paying until you've got, we're up to the clock gets up to about 2 hours, I believe.
2 to 3 hours, correct?
Yeah, right. So we've got one carrier in this article that talked about basically, they say 1 hour. At the second hour, they get $20 an hour. The driver does at that point. The reason why is because they get paid for every pickup and delivery $20. So they're already getting $20 when they show up. So that covers the first hour. Second hour, then they're getting, it starts off at the $20 per hour. They're saying their detention issue isn't that bad. Um, MIT did a study showing that long haul drivers only spend an average of 6.5 hours per day driving. That's it. I don't know if that's the case for you, despite being allowed to drive 11 hours a day. That means 40% of their daily capacity is not being used due to downtime, detention, unloading, loading. So another type of downtime, of course, is mechanical breakdown, and they're saying it's worse than ever because of the part shortage, supply chain issues, so on and so forth. So, biggest thing is to constantly communicate with the drivers, by way of a newsletter, group text, and I think you guys do a good job of that because we've talked in the past about, how a CSA related incident can affect a driver's 90-day bonus that you give. Okay. So, and I'll let you elaborate here in a second, but they go on to finish by saying basically, a lot of companies, okay, well, we can't afford to do that. We can't pay $20 an hour and stuff. So the way they say, they look at it is it's not a cost center, it's actually a revenue generator. So if you're paying a driver, it means they're generating revenue, right? At this point. So when you take a look at recruiting and onboarding new drivers, the article goes on to say that it's estimated to be six to 8,000 per driver to replace that driver from the time the truck's been sitting, the vetting of the driver, the drug testing, the additional costs that you've got, to onboard this particular driver. So, communicating, maybe, rethinking driver pay is something that motor carriers need to do. Not saying happy, but I'm going to let you elaborate maybe on some of the points that I just discussed on that. I'm sure there's some things you agree on.
Well, one of the points that that I've always found interesting, and it's a very legitimate concern, is you see the company that says we're going to pay a $5,000 sign-on
Sign on
bonus,
bonus, right?
and anyone that's been around long enough realizes you don't get 5 grand walking in the door. you get a little bit at the end of a month, a little bit at the end
Right,
of a
right.
quarter.
Might take 12 months or so to get that $5,000.
Right.
Yeah.
But why in the world are we not doing that for our best and our brightest guys that we want to keep? Why don't we have a $5,000, you didn't have any tickets, you didn't have any claims, you didn't have any damage to the vehicle. And you got three, maybe you need to get three compliments from customers.
Right.
And then here's $5,000. Pay it out sometime between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and everybody can strive and drive
Oh,
in that
wow.
direction. Wouldn't
Yeah.
that be awesome? I mean, I just think that
That sounds like a loaded question to me, but go ahead.
just the way that we do things is really a lot of times very fast backwards
Yes.
in trying to get somebody in, and are they going to be a good team member or not? And we're
Right.
not going to know for 6 months.
For sure.
We're not going to know.
Right.
And it's almost like not the going in pay. We as an industry need to work on the keeping pay and the staying pay and the you're worth having pay. Having said that, I do not have the model that would really address that,
Right. Right.
but I can see why we do things really backward. And that's what gives the ATA the false claim of there's a driver shortage. No, there's a driver jumping problem.
Good point. Good point. I like that. I like that. All right. Well, moving right along. The next article we talked about is, and we I think in last week we touched upon the CSA scores and how one driver can affect that for a motor carrier. And I read another article. 5 ways to improve your CSA scores, and they're pretty. I mean, a lot of people, it's common sense, a lot of this, but it's a matter of, I guess, continually addressing that with the driver, not to the point where they're deaf, they got that selective deafness going because, oh, here comes Rick again saying the same old thing 4,000 times. And I've only been here a month. So, they talk about conducting, internal safety audits, consider the value of an internal audit where your driver's hours of service, compliance, required documentation, driver's license, medical certificates. If you're performing vehicle inspections at your shop itself, then they go on to talk about, regular training and education. Where you take your Verizon, in your case, your Verizon Connect videos. We've talked about this too, where we're not picking on one driver. We're using this particular incident as a learning experience to help other drivers, so everybody gets to see what happened here. So, and I know we've addressed that RV merge at the toll booth just recently. That's a good education, I would think, right? And then they talk about, communicating clearly and frequently on safety. A lot of companies have the attitude in safety that they say, set it and forget it. But you can't do that. You got to have regular reminders, and, could be newsletters, emails, texts, and it's got to come from, the person at the top, because if they hear it from a safety director, it's like, yeah, you're just doing your job and stuff. But if they hear it from, Rick, the owner, which I know they do in your case, but, there's Rick, the owner of many other carriers that have 50, 100, 200 trucks, are they hearing it from the guy at the very top, the guy with the name on the side of the truck, guy that signs the checks? Probably not, and that's something that's got to happen, I think. But recognize and incentivize safe drivers, which you do. We just talked about that. What's the perfect model? For a flatbed carrier, it's not going to be the same as a dry van carrier, or a hazardous hauler, or a crosstown aggregate hauler that's just doing 50-mile runs with a dump truck. a little different, but you got to find what works for your company. And then, constantly, making a point to review your safety program. Maybe it's once a year you do it, and see if there's something, because I know with our very informative Happy Truck Talk podcast that we've got now, motor carriers can take stuff out of this and add this to their safety program. So there you go. Yep. So
Well, a good chance of doing that, of course, is with the annual review as required by the DOT. When you sit down with your guy and say anything that you want to tell me about, and of course, you have to pull up the MVR for your
you do.
favorite
Yeah.
insurance company
Yes.
every year.
That's right. That's right.
And
But the
you
DOT requires that anyways too, is that you have an annual motor vehicle record as well. So you're right.
we took it a step farther, and in West Virginia, we can go online every month and check to make sure that the driver has not had his license downgraded. And we do that every single month with every driver because we had such an issue of the physical being married up with commercial driver's license at the state level. And if it fell off the fax machine or between the cracks or whatever the phrase is, it happened a few times where the driver's physical didn't marry up with his license and he was downgraded to the point one time our guy had to call another driver and say, come and move my truck into town so I can go to the DMV and get this correct.
Right.
He didn't even know that he just had a non-commercial driver's license. So we do that every month, which is not as in depth as an MVR, but I hope other carriers do as well, just so their drivers aren't.
Well, it's a proactive step too to help with a CSA violation, obviously, driver fitness. Right. So, granted, it's 30 days, but if you're doing it every month, you're going to be on top of it. Where if you just do it in an annual review, you could have an issue 3 months ago where that driver was put out of service, just like you said, and you had to have another driver go move that vehicle. So that's a very, yeah, I like that. It's a proactive move. So we've got a road check coming up. Good old national annual road check. Of course, this year it's May 14th through the 16th. And you probably already know, but I'm going to ask you, what 2 areas are we focusing on this year?
I have not read yet.
Come on.
I have not read yet.
I sent you the link even right to
it. I have not read yet.
All right. Well, one of them is part of your CSA, and that is the drug and alcohol possession. Okay. The other one is tractor protection systems. Those are the 2 areas. So controlled substance and alcohol possession use remains a significant concern for motor carriers, drivers, and the general public, the CVSA said. And that is the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, CVSA. Pretty sad that we have to even address this, I think. You would think that would be, just common to know that drugs, alcohol, getting behind 80,000 pounds is not a good mixture, so to speak. Let's see.
I'll make a counterpoint though. Make a counterpoint.
Yes, sir.
We had a driver many years ago. Guy was, he was a good driver. Didn't miss work and hit his marks and everything, and sent him for a random one time and he failed. And I said, what happened that we failed the drug test? And he was very open. And he said, I smoked pot on the weekends. I'd never take it in the truck. I just recreationally smoked grass at my house Saturday nights on the back porch.
Right.
And he did not realize, he did not understand You cannot do that. He thought it was like alcohol. If you have 4 hours in between your drink
Right.
and, doing any safety sensitive function, you should be okay. He felt, he thought marijuana was the same way. And we had to part ways with him. And it was really sad because really hated to see him go. He did a good
Hmm.
job.
Right.
But lack of knowledge is no excuse,
That's right.
but yet it actually cost him a job. And at that time, this is way, way before the clearinghouse. I mean, I'm going
Yeah.
back 20 years ago when this
Right.
happened.
Right.
And, that is one thing that the clearinghouse is going to address. That if that happened today with a carrier that was using the clearinghouse as they should, that guy would absolutely be marked for life. And that's kind of a shame because it was just his ignorance, and ignorance is not a bad thing. It's just lack of knowledge.
Right.
I'm ignorant in a lot of areas because I don't have the knowledge,
Right.
as you are too.
I agree. I do agree. That's right. That's right. So what's disturbing, I guess, is that let's see here. They go on to say that the most recent monthly report from the clearinghouse, um, there were 158,330 drivers listed as prohibited as a result of drug alcohol testing violations in the database. That's a lot of drivers. 158,000. That's up from 120,345 in December of 2022. So in 1 year's time, we've had a 30% increase in the clearinghouse numbers database. Is that ignorance?
Mm-hmm.
Is that ignorance or what? So with that in mind, we've got, another 30,000 people that didn't do their homework before they decided to smoke grass or whatever on a Saturday to relax with friends and stuff. So, we tote that drivers, CDL, once you get your CDL, you're supposed to be a professional driver. Do you agree with that?
In theory, yes.
Okay. And is that 24/7?
I'm going to throw this one back to you. According to the insurance, if you have a DUI in your personal vehicle, you are not allowed to drive our insured commercial
That's
vehicle
correct.
because the insurance company feels that behavior will translate to driving a truck.
In addition, we always have to look at the defense standpoint. So we've got a driver that you hired with that scenario, maybe 18 months ago, had a DUI, and you decide to hire him, give him a chance. He's went to his AA meetings and stuff and did all that and thinks he's doing very well. And unfortunately, something in his personal life causes him to possibly, stumble, so to speak, and is then gets into an accident. And of course, he's tested and it is deemed that he's going to get a DUI citation. That accident now with your insurance company, of course, who has to defend this particular driver, knowing that 18 months prior to that, he had another one. You can see that basically any claimant or plaintiff attorney is going to have a field day with that. And instead of possibly having to pay out 100,000, they might shoot for 500,000 because we've got a driver that maliciously got behind the wheel and drove into my client and injured them severely. So getting back to the 24/7, yes, unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately, but as a CDLA driver, you have to be very cautious. You have to be smart. You have to know, once again, like you just talked about earlier from your driver from 20 years ago, how long a particular substance or liquid may stay in your system. Correct? So, but
But
like I said,
yet
yet,
our federal government says, you know what? You can test positive on a drug test and you can still drive an 80,000-pound commercial motor vehicle as long as you go through the steps with the SAP.
right?
And somehow, when you read all the reports about the long-term effects using marijuana as an example, the long-term effects of slowing down reaction time, the long-term effects of smoking in younger years, and how it affects decision making, and yet it's okay to do those things, but our insurance company, because as you just very well described, because of litigation and
Correct.
possible payout,
Right.
says, hey, we can't have this. It's not congruent in our industry. It's not congruent.
Right.
I
Right.
don't know how Rick and Steve are going to fix that, but it's not congruent, and it really gives the wrong message to
Drivers.
yes.
Yeah, because they're going to say, look, hey, the feds say I can drive. You're telling me I can't. I'm just going to go to this other motor carrier 2 blocks down the street and they'll hire me because they're saying I can drive for them. Why is your insurance company or your insurance agent so strict?
And also touching back on the increased numbers, Steve, on the clearinghouse, I
Yes.
think those numbers are higher in that 12-month later period because more carriers are dialing into the clearinghouse.
Even though
It has,
they were supposed to, over 2 years ago, they were supposed to be signed up for that. So you're right. You're right. It's a numbers, it's data. So that's finally making its way through as far as that goes. But for the road check, though, what's nice is this particular article gave me a link to and it's just looks like it's 3 pages. It's a 3-page inspection bulletin that's available. And what I'm going to do is make this available to anybody that's interested in getting one. To send me a note, and I can. It's in PDF form. Email it, but it goes through. Exactly on the tractor protection system, and I'll send this to you as well. It talks about. Uh, Obviously, this is going to be for the air brakes. What else they have here? Towing trailer. They talk about. They even go through the tractor protection valve and trailer supply. Do you see that graphic right there? They go into depth on that as to what they're looking for. So I think it's good for to have this bulletin. It's and share with the drivers so they know at least, hey, come May 14th, you know, the other, and just a side note too, over the years, for both of us, we've both been doing this for quite a long time, no question, 30 plus years, obviously. Me and the insurance, you and the truck side. But with these road checks that come up annually, usually in May, always in May, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of motor carriers that I talk to shut down for those 3 days. That's defeating, I guess, the purpose. You would think, because once again, what happens when you have that road check and it's a level 1? We know there's 3 levels, right? Level 1, and you pass that level 1, what happens? Do you know? Obviously, you know. What do you get from that good old DOT officer?
depends
Sticker.
on where you are.
Yeah, usually you get a sticker, right? That you can put no, what's a no?
No, no. A few years ago in our great state of West Virginia, we passed a DOT inspection, truck and trailer, and we were denied stickers. And so I called our Public Service Commission and asked why we were denied stickers. And the officer said, we cannot have the liability of issuing a sticker. And I said, could you please explain? Well, let's say that we inspect your truck and you pass at 9:28 this morning, and
Right.
at 9:50 that truck is involved in an accident, and we just put a sticker on it that it passed the inspection, we can't have that. And I said, well, there's still record that you did an inspection. We have the printout that we have to send within 15 days to you,
Right.
still on the hook saying that we were deemed sufficient and safe. We are not issuing stickers anymore for that reason, is what the Public Service Commission in West Virginia told us. And that's such a double-edged sword.
It
If
is.
we are going to submit and pass an inspection, then I do want the cape that I can show off
Correct.
for the next 90 days that I did this. And it, you know, it gives good reason why there are those that park for the
Those 3
blitz,
days.
the safety blitz in
Right.
May.
Right.
We've also had a guy one time came in, and the blitz was coming up Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, as it always is. The weekend before, he went through truck and trailer, and things that might have been deemed, you felt it failed and I felt it was good, such as S camshaft bushings on the braking system. This is back when all we had available were drum brakes.
Right.
He went ahead and replaced them, replaced all on, he was an owner operator. He owned his truck and his trailer, replaced all the S cam bushings and S camshafts on the braking system on the trailer. And on Tuesday, he was stopped for an inspection, and he said, man, I'm so excited about this because I spent the weekend doing a lot of extra work to be able to pass. And he was put out of service on the spot because the officer said these S cam bushings are worn out. And our guy said, sir, they're less than 72 hours old. I just put them in on Saturday. And the officer said, well, I'm deeming them unsafe and unfit. Have somebody come out and put more in right here on the spot. That guy never worked another 72-hour blitz when he was at Happy Trucking. And I don't blame him.
Exactly. I was going to say with
That
good reason,
cost
obviously.
cost him tremendously.
Wow.
And you hear stories like that and you understand why people, say, oh, I'm going to take those 3 days off. I think
Exactly.
that everybody should run because we ought to be able to be inspected at any moment.
Right.
But having had that past experience, I can appreciate why.
Why? Yes. Yes. Especially owner operators.
Yes.
I can see that. No question. No question. So, got a couple videos real quick. They are not dash cams this time. These are preventable or not preventable accident scenarios. Okay. But first, and I know we talked about this because I didn't have the recording, but I'm pretty sure, I don't know if I did this last week or not. I don't think I did, but I'm going to redo it. We talked about distracted driving related fatality accidents and what state is the highest for distracted driving accidents that result in fatalities. Do you recall?
I remember Kentucky was much higher than I expected.
Okay. The national rate, by the way, is 8.12%. Okay. 8.12. New Mexico, number one, most distracted drivers at 40.75% of their fatality accidents or accidents that resulted in fatalities, 40%. And of course, I'm going to rattle these off real quick. Hawaii's second most, go figure. Driving along, looking at the beautiful scenery and stuff. Sure. Next up is Kansas is third. Kansas actually had 21%. Louisiana is at 19.5. Then we've got, let's see here, New Jersey was at 19. The remainder of the top 10 are Washington at 16.75, Illinois at 16.36, Kentucky 16.35, Virginia at 11.8, and Idaho at 10.6. The zero fatality states, there's only two: Alaska and Vermont. How about that? And as we know, what is the most distracted? What's the distraction itself? What is the distraction that's causing the most accidents?
Cell phones.
Cell phones. That's correct. We also had distracted by an outside person, by another occupant, while reaching for a device or object in the vehicle. And let's see, while using other components or controls like your radio. Even smoking is up there. That was number 10. So moving right along, because I know we're getting down on time here. So we're going to blow right into these here. We've got, let me get this one pulled up here. I'm going to share. This is it. Are you able to see this? No. Now you are. Okay, this is a flatbed driver blindsided at an intersection. Was this accident preventable or not? I'm going to not let the, so we've got a vehicle, obviously. Particular driver. Actually, I don't know if the sound might be better. How about that? Do we agree with that?
Wow.
And let's see here. This one. Let's go back here. So, I mean, real quick on that one. Rick, I just, I had this beautiful 1972 Mercury Cougar come up, and I just, wiped out the whole driver's side of the car. It was just purchased at
Barrett Jackson.
Barrett Jackson, and it's $438,000. Person was just out driving it for the first time. Just want to let you know. He may be getting a call. So
that, in a scenario like that, you can see why it would be not preventable, but we don't have overhead vision and a play-by-play. So
that's true too.
I would see the driver of the truck being assigned a percentage of fault because he didn't see the car coming up.
That is tough. You're right. That's tough. So here we go. This is a driver slides into a steel lane divider on a snowy, dark highway. Was it preventable or not? This one we actually get. There you go. What'd you think about that one?
Yeah, it seemed kind of quick for the conditions.
Yes. So, I mean, have you been in a situation where I've had other drivers. Now, of course, that's on doubles and triples where, one of the pup trailers is actually beside you as you look out to your driver's side. That's a bad situation. When the trailer's right beside you, waving at you like, "Hey, do you mind if I pass?"
Yes, yes. I want to be the lead dog for the problem. Yeah.
Have you I know you've driven truck for practically all of your 39 years. Have you had a situation, because West Virginia, got the hills, we've got a lot of dark, unlit highway areas, I'm sure, over the years, maybe not so much as now with technology and stuff, but have you had, a situation like that ever yourself?
Not quite like that, but definitely slid in the bad weather and not been able to get up a few hills.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's always the possibility that you might come to a stop and go down backwards.
Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah. Not a good feeling. So, last thought, and speaking of West Virginia, I know West Virginia and several states that have a lot of the steep hills and steep grades have a truck breakdown lane or so that actually forces them to go back up a hill to slow down, if I'm not mistaken. Not sure exactly what do you guys call that in West Virginia? When you're
You mean
coming
like a
down
third
too
lane?
fast. Well, you're coming down too fast, and if you lose your
Oh,
brakes,
an escape lane.
Okay. I saw something on social media today where there was a highway trooper parked right where the escape lane is. It's like,
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Officer, that's not a good place to
Yeah.
hide. So I thought that was funny. But well, I appreciate it. We're getting close here. Let's get back to, everything at Happy Trucking. Till Lynn, I'm very sorry for her loss. That's obviously not a good thing. So, and good luck to you for the rest of the day, getting your trucks routed for Monday and back home safely for the weekend. So thanks again, Rick.
All right.
We'll talk next week. Thank you, sir.
All right, man.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.